For whoever is joined already, we're just going to wait another minute or so for everyone to be rolling in, and then we will start the presentations. Okay, I think we're good to go. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's MEA's webinar on lessons learned through various projects and experiences. My name is Karan Sharma, and I'm pleased to serve as a chair for today's session. On behalf of the Municipal Engineers, Engineering Associates, and our MEA members, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. So today's webinar will be featuring 4 presentations. Each will be focused on lessons learned through different projects and experiences. Our speakers today are Melanie Knowles from the city of Kingston, Reg Russworm from the city of Guelph. Just a side note, Reg will be joining MEA as an incoming executive director in June 2026. Michael Capucci from town of LaSalle, and Vivian Yao from the city of Toronto. So each presenter will introduce themselves and go over the presentations with us, and then we will have a short Q&A period at the end of the presentations where you can ask questions. Now, a couple of housekeeping items before we begin is the chat function is disabled for this webinar, so please use the Q&A function to ask any questions. And the webinar will be recorded and posted on MEA's website for future viewing. With that, thank you again for attending. We look forward to learning from each of our presenters and their project experiences. Now, I would like to now invite our first presenter, Melanie Knowles from the city of Kingston, to introduce herself and begin her presentation.
All right, can everyone see the presentation now? Yes, we're good. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction, Karen. I'm Melanie Knowles. I'm one of 7 project managers at the City of Kingston in the Engineering Services Department. A couple years ago, I worked on a project as the Aberdeen Street reconstruction. This name might sound familiar. Aberdeen Street is infamous for Queen's Homecoming partying. There's a lot of students that live on the street. It's very short, but very wild. Construction started in fall of 2024, and the goal of it was to support housing growth in the university district. And we did this by upgrading underground infrastructure and took the opportunity to improve the pedestrian space. This is a little photo of what it looked like prior to construction. So it had narrow sidewalks. It was a narrow road, but uh, lanes in both directions and parking on one side. So some of the project drivers, like I had mentioned, we wanted housing growth in the area. So there was a new development at the northeast corner of Aberdeen Street at Johnson, where they're putting up a high rise. And so they needed upgraded water and wastewater servicing, and also upgraded water main. We also were able to maintain the existing wastewater main by removing the stormwater from the existing combined sewer, which expanded the capacity. And we took this opportunity to implement Green Street features such as adding trees, stormwater management, LID, and traffic calming. The project team was made up of the City of Kingston, where we did the in-house design. We had our joint design partner, Utilities Kingston. EXP was kind enough to provide geotechnical investigation, and Forefront Engineering reviewed and stamped the stormwater design. This snip here shows what the new cross-section would be like or is now. You can see there's the widened sidewalk, 1.8 meters. We've added in a boulevard space on both sides for that added pedestrian safety and separation from the roadway. Went with a very narrow roadway, so simply 2 lanes at 6 meters total, and with a barrier curb. In plan view, you can see we added some bump outs to add to the pedestrian safety with a shorter crossing distance. So on the right, that's Cross Street, William Street, where we've narrowed it there. And then on the left is Earl Street, which is the entrance to one of the main buildings at Queen's University. It's their ARC, which is their big gym. So some of the project constraints that we saw, one, although the development was one of the main drivers, they also became one of the constraints. So they had construction at the same time as we did. So that orange highlighted area was the developer site, and everything to the right of it was our site. And it was delineated by a simple construction fence that moved from day to day depending on what space we needed or what space they needed. It required a lot of coordination between both contractors, and it did have an impact on schedule. Another constraint was that we were dealing with a tight right of way. So the right of way is 20 meters, but there's a lot of encroachment on that narrow right of way. In the image on the top right, there's a red kind of little deck. We actually had to cut a foot off of it so that the sidewalk could fit in. So there were a couple locations, I think 3 in total, where we had to change some of the steps or decks to be able to fit in our sidewalk. One other constraint was the flat cross section. So there was an existing barrier curb which we wanted to maintain for safety, but it was substandard height because of existing or multiple overlays over the years. but we wanted to maintain the height of the center line so that we wouldn't have to put insulation on any of the underground infrastructure. This meant that we had to flatten out the slope for the boulevard and the space behind the sidewalk. So here's a video of the street while it was under construction. The black cells there on the left, those are the soil cells. There were quite a few that were needed to support the tree growth. On the left, we wanted full-size mature trees, whereas on the right, we went with uh, more dwarf version trees so that when they grew, they wouldn't grow into the hydro lines. And here you can see the tight space between the City of Kingston site and the developer site. So another lesson learned was the Kingston has a lot of hard rock, and so the contractor wasn't that familiar. They knew that there was rock, they knew the bedrock elevations, but they didn't realize how hard it would be. So it took longer to break through than they expected, which meant that they paved in December. So the top lift of asphalt um, had deficiencies. So the following spring, they milled off the top lift and had to repave. So here in the image, you see them adding tack coat, and then they were repaved just a few minutes later. And this is what it looked like when it was all done. So we have our widened sidewalk at 1.8 meters. You can see that it is still fairly close to some of the homes. We have our trees, we have our boulevard space, and the narrow roadway. We've removed parking with the intention in future years to convert it to a one-way due to the very low traffic volumes. Are there any questions? Oh, oh,
You can see in Q&A, Melanie, I'm not sure if you can open it, but I can
oh,
read it. Did this project impact St. Patrick's Day Festival, and how did the student body and other stakeholders react to this? Um, um, yeah, that was one question.
yes. So St. Patrick's Day as well as homecoming are two big events. Um, the contractor was very good to work with. So what we did is we buried any open excavations for the weekend or put plates on top of any open excavations if they were small enough. We had set up, the city of Kingston already has cameras in the area, so we were keep monitoring it. And we also had police presence. We found that they did enter the site. They climbed on top of the excavators. Luckily, nobody got hurt. But otherwise, there was no no damage, no vandalism, and it all worked out well. The students were upset, but I think they're glad for it in the long run. At least I hope so.
Okay, next question. Why were the hydro lines not buried? Was this considered?
Yes, burying the hydro lines was considered. So Utilities Kingston had recently replaced the lines, I believe 2 years prior to the project, and they still had a lot of service life remaining. So the cost to bury them would be all on the city of Kingston, and there was no appetite from Utilities Kingston to bury lines. We have a lot of overhead hydro throughout the entire city, and that is their level of service that they choose to provide.
Okay. Next question is, was any pre-construction building condition survey done? Was there any vibration monitoring arranged during construction due to the proximity of the residential homes?
Oh, I think you were on our project team. So yes, we did. So there was there were surveys done. Um, So before design, there was basement inspections done to gather the service elevations and where they came into the homes. We had done the topographic survey in-house. There was written in the contract to do basement investigations to check for structural integrity and checking for existing cracks. And there was also vibration monitoring because we were aware of all of the bedrock in the closed homes. Nothing came out of it. The, it was all recorded, but there were no complaints during or after related to vibrations.
One last question. Any reason to have narrow lanes? And if the sidewalk encroached on the property lines at times, was there not consideration to narrow the boulevard?
Yeah, so actually the entire east sidewalk was moved 30 centimeters to the west, so closer into the roadway, narrowing the boulevard during construction, to make it possible for one of the homes to have steps, period, because their home was on the property line. Um, the city of Kingston is moving towards green streets, and so we are looking to, especially in this area, the proximity to the university and the number of students that use it, uh, that walk through this area on a daily basis, made us want to make it more pedestrian friendly. So there were 1,200 pedestrians a day, and there were about 500 cars. So it made more sense to do it towards pedestrians. Um, the reason that the boulevard was so wide was to facilitate like full growth of the trees and safety. So having that offset, we also have a lot of snow in Kingston and we needed somewhere to put it. Oftentimes, if it's a narrow boulevard or if the sidewalk is adjacent to the street, then don't get the snowbanks on the sidewalk don't get plowed immediately. But with all of these pedestrians, we wanted them to be able to walk through at almost any time.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for the presentation, Melanie. That was great. That was
Thanks for having me.
absolutely. Next up, we have Reg from the city of Guelph. Um, you can share your screen and we can go from there.
Okay. Um, Melanie, you have to drop your screen first, I
Yeah.
think.
Yep.
Two. There we go.
Also, as I mentioned before, a warm welcome for Reg as he will be serving as an executive director for MEA in June 2026 and onwards. I know you guys can't really talk or do anything, so I'm just going to do it from my end.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, so let's talk about something more fun. My name is Reg Rusworm. I'm the manager of design and construction with the city of Guelph for at least the next month or so. And then I move on to a role with the MEA. I'm here to discuss with you an innovative approach the City of Guelph took to tender preparation and procurement of a complicated project, which was the reconstruction of the main street in downtown Guelph. We felt that the same old approach was not going to be successful. We used a construction review panel to bring contractors into the design very early and leverage their knowledge to develop a tender package that would deliver the project on time and within budget. Oh, here's our quick overview. I'm going to talk about some background. I'm going to set the scene for the construction review panel. We'll talk about that process. And then at the end, some results, best practices, and lessons learned.
Reg, you're not sharing your screen.
Am I not sharing my screen? I'm sure I
No.
have.
Am I wrong? Do you guys see his screen? No, right? Just share your screen again.
Okay,
Um,
let me do that again.
yeah.
Technology is not my strong point. Share.
Yeah.
You should see this one, right? Share. Do you see it now?
In about a second. Yes, we do see it now. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Looks no different on my end, but okay. Let me put me back where I was. All right. So, anyways, there's the introduction. I've going to talk about what the construction review panel is. First off, just to set the scene, um, this is the area of the project outlined in red. This is phase one of the downtown reconstruction program, which is supposed to take up to 15 years. This is Wyndham Street from Wellington to Woolwich. This goes right through the downtown core and includes the St. George's Square, which is a community hub. So it's a full road reconstruction, building face to building face. As we can all imagine, working in a congested downtown is complicated, especially around staging and sequencing, maintaining accesses to businesses and residents, maintaining municipal and utility services, goods movement to and from businesses when the road's fully closed. How are you going to do that? And the cost and schedule uncertainty inherent in such a project. So we thought about it and we wanted to, who's best able to manage these risks? Is it the city? We've got local knowledge and relationships that we can use to guide the project delivery, and city does, as the owner, has overall responsibility. What does the design consultant bring to it? They are our engineering experts. They specify what is to be built on the drawings and in the special provisions, and they have that contract administration experience. But what's a contractor bring to this? They've got that real mud on the boots experience, as I call it. They've got the knowledge of industry capabilities and flexibility. So, given all the challenges and risks, plus the limitations of on-the-ground experience of owners and contractors, which we have to recognize, owners and consultants don't have all construction knowledge that they should have. So the city chose a hybrid model approach, something that we call the construction review panel. It's sort of like the design bid build process with a twist. So this is where we brought contractors very early in during design. And this was to help us identify constructability risks, address potential problems proactively, get ahead of issues, inform the drawings and specifications, especially inform the construction cost. And the contractors themselves actually gain a deeper understanding of the design process and the underlying thought that went into what they're going to be building. The city can respond and adapt to residents and business concerns better than contractors. And also, then this helps us establish an achievable budget and schedule, which is, of course, most important to the city leadership. So, what's Guelph's model? What did we come up with after all this noodling? So we decided we would pre-qualify up to 4 general contractors through an RFP process. The CRP then is formed from the general contractors, the consultant team, and city staff. And we decided we'd set up meetings at key milestones where we'd bring all these people together at it. There was a kickoff meeting to understand what we're doing, but then we would review the design at 30, 60, and 90%. The general contractors were paid for their time at rates set out in the RFP. Now, the key is that these general contractors are the only ones that will be then permitted to bid on the work. And we did retain a third-party coach who's got procurement expertise to just help facilitate discussion. This is a bit of a graphic I bounced together to just try and describe. So the CRP is formed of those in the red box. That is the contractor, consultant, and city staff. The coach is there to set the scene and facilitate the panel discussion if it goes off the rails. And in the end, the consultant prepares a tender package for competitive bidding and then onwards to construction. Since the CRP model is new to the city and linear construction as a whole, we took steps to mitigate the potential risks with this new model. So again, I talked about this coach and facilitator to guide discussions if things were going like off the rails, or nobody was opening up and we couldn't get any discussion moving. We did all the contractors were evaluated after every workshop. They essentially got a score from our consultant, and it was based on the completeness and quality of their comments ahead of the meeting, the attendance and participation in the workshop, and did they provide insightful and constructive commentary. And they were then, if they did not achieve a minimum requirements, disqualified for bidding. We did decide that we would, though, want a minimum of 3 bidders once we went to tender. So we had 4. We could lose one general contractor, so that we at least had 3 that would bid. And also within the RFP with the contractors is we had some off-ramp clauses such that if the city felt this process was not adding value, we could just cancel it and we would go back to a traditional design bid build approach. So how did it go? We started this in September of 2024. It was about 16 months before tendering. And without too much of a spoiler alert, it went to construction on March 30th of this year. All the contractors participated, all four of them, and it was a lot of fun to see all the discussion and debate going on. It was great to see contractors going at our consulting team, challenging them on the design and their sequencing of work, and then the contractors going at each other when they disagreed. So my worry is that they would just sit there and drink my Tims and eat my donuts. That was not the case. It was a case of almost there was too much discussion, and I had to keep slowing things, keep cut construction discussion short just to keep it on schedule. We did identify construction pain points. That was great. It did lead to some new methods and ideas and approaches that we used in the contract. The contractors all talked to me and they valued the opportunity to be involved. None of them had ever done anything like this, to be that involved that early in design. I'm happy to say all the bids were within the budget, and the contractors helped us set the construction budget. We weren't asking for anybody to give away secrets, but is this construction estimate we have in the range? And they helped us come up with that range of costs. And I'm happy to say all the bids were within that range. Construction did start ahead of schedule on March the 30th. We found ways to get going as early as we could this spring. And as for the cost of the construction review panel, overall, it was $151,000 of a $41 million project. That is great value for money invested. So again, overall, a positive, informative, and valuable experience for everybody involved. So talk about some best practices and lessons learned. It's important we set the tone early and to set a tone of cooperation and collaboration to make the best project possible. And that's what we were all there for. We were looking for the best project. And even if the contractors were not successful, they wanted to see the project done well. Our consultant team has to be well prepared for workshops so that they can make best use of everybody's time. It was important you pay fair compensations for the contractors' time. They are busy people. They got a lot of things to do. They don't want to sit in a room and do it for free on the off chance they might get some work. So pay them. Got to manage some of that passionate debate that was unleashed. I discussed that a little bit. Now, originally we had a half-day kickoff meeting just to talk about what is a CRP and what's the roles. And then we had 3 one-day workshops at 30, 60, 90. And in the end, that wasn't enough. We added 2 more all-day workshops, one at 60% and one at pre-tender. And because there was a lot to talk about, and the contractors were very engaged. You have to respect proprietary means and methods. We're not there to have anybody give away the secrets on how they do that work, but just provide us a guidance. Maybe most importantly of all, have a good lunch. Coffee and snacks available. Nothing sets a tone of cooperation and collaboration than having a meal together. I believe I've raced through that whole thing and I'm at the questions and thoughts. So I'm more than happy to elaborate on any of the points that I've raised or um, so Karen,
Uh, First question, what is the full abbreviation of CRP?
it's the
For yeah,
what's CRP? Construction Review Panel.
and for GCs were paid during the design stage, right? So
Yes.
yes. Okay. Next question we have is, what was the main point in the RFP's technical requirement?
The main point in the RFP for technical requirement, we wanted contractors that demonstrated the abilities to do this type of work. Have they worked in congested downtown areas that are complex and complicated? And that they had a team, be it, either themselves or they had a group of, they were willing to team up with others to do this work. So although we didn't have to, we were very willing to entertain a team of contractors that came together to do this work.
Next question is the 151,000 for the CRP cost. Was that, what is that broken down into? What cost the most?
Well, we did pay the contractors all. I should have had the numbers in front of me. We paid them about $2,000 each team to prepare for a meeting. So there was ended up being 5 meetings. So we paid them that amount of money to prep, and then I think we paid them $200 a day for each attendee they brought. Now we said they could they could bring up to 3 attendees, and we would pay up to two. So there's another $400. You add all that up plus the cost of the meals, uh, and it added up to around $151,000.
We have quite a few questions came in just now, 7 actually. How is the CRP score included in the consultant's RFP? And was this decided pre-RFP or after award?
For the consultant,
For the consultant's RFP, so how was the CRP scope
so
included in the consultant's RFP?
yeah, so in the consultant's RFP, we did let them know that we wanted to develop a process that sort of looked like this construction review panel. The consultant team actually helped us with that, helped develop the terms of reference we would put out to the contractors. And we did have in their RFP, I think I had identified that there would have to be some scoring mechanism by which to make sure that the contractors were participating. But our consultant team was told that they weren't given details. They helped us develop it.
At which stage you started pre-qualifying and inviting the contractors?
It was the second task in the consultant's RFP. After gather background information, the next thing was prepare terms of reference for the construction review panel. Remember, we wanted these people already, the contractors all in place for 30% design review. So that's very early. So by the time you go through the RFP process, internal procurement, a kickoff meeting, you're looking at a few months. So we wanted the contractors in place prior to the 30% design being ready.
Okay. Based on the CRP experience, is Guelph going to pursue this for the future projects? Is
Yeah.
there going, sorry, is
Well,
there a cost where this is is there a cost where this is practical, which would be like 10 million plus? Like, is there like a figure, right?
okay, on the first point, Guelph is using the CRP process. Actually, on a bridge project we were struggling with, I set one up to do a CRP right at 90%. Um, and then we just brought in the shortlisted contractors at 90%. And we learned good value for them, especially around staging and budget. And going forward, the city has plans to use at least 3 more projects that are going in design this year. That will include a CRP. So, is it at what dollar figure? I think at almost any dollar figure it can become valuable if if your project is really complex and it's not straightforward. Like if you're doing what I call a bread and butter road reconstruction project, that's not necessary. But if you're doing work that you don't have that is unique, like reconstruction of downtown, not many of us do that in our careers, or you lack internal experience in the consultant team. Uh, Consultants don't generally have this type of knowledge either. You want to get as much input as you can. So I don't know if I would set a dollar figure. I would say more it's a measure of how complex is your project, how much certainty or risk is there in knowing or not knowing the cost and schedule.
Okay, we have questions just keep coming in, so I'm gonna ask a few
You decide
more.
how long you want to go,
I'm
Karen.
gonna go a few more questions, and after that, Reg will provide a direct response typed up into the chat.
Oh, will
Um,
I? I have no idea how to do that.
okay,
But
okay.
I'm more than happy to
I
talk
will.
to anybody anytime about this.
Okay.
But if
So,
somebody shows me
oops.
how to do that, I'll try working at it.
All right. So who did you require to attend for the GCs, PMs, four person, foremans, um, or is this like left to GCs to determine?
Okay, yeah. So for the general contractors, we specified that we wanted an estimator. You know, who was their head estimator. We wanted a like who was their project supervisor or their project manager, uh, and a yeah, estimated project, like who was their project lead and who was going to be their guy on site. Like who was their, the site supervisor. So the really guys that knew what was going on with respect to construction and with respect to costs.
Okay. Next question. Did you have to alter the procurement bylaw to enter into this approach? Any pushback from procurement or
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. We did not have to alter the bylaw, is available, but it took a number of discussions with procurement and legal for them to feel comfortable with the approach. But in the end, it's all above board. As long as you do certain things like uh, have a few of those off ramps where the city's not locked in. We have some options, and that these are the only bidders that can bid on the work are the ones that are involved in this process.
awesome? Are there any downsides in this process that you noticed while going through the process?
Yeah, actually, it's very hard to come up with anything that I would say is a downside. Now, there is time involved. It takes time from our consultant team to prepare the comments and put all that, compile comments, put it all together, and reflect on it. But all in all, it was really good value for money for a type of project. Now, like I say, if it's a simple project, it's probably not that necessary. You do this type of thing, but from a downside, then it locks you in with these four contractors to bid on the work at the end. I don't see much of a downside right now.
Okay. Okay. So we have three more to go, so I'm just gonna go over them right now. Can you share the RFP model? That was a question.
Yeah, I've shared it around it's making its way around the province already, likely. Yeah, so if somebody contacts me at the city of Guelph, just reg.rusworm@guelph.ca, I'm more than happy to share it. Now, you've got a limited amount of time for me, because I'm only with Guelph until the end of May, but somebody else would be able to provide that too.
Okay. Are the contractor COR certified as part of the bid process?
Um, COR, yes. Actually, we required the contractors to be COR certified for this project.
Okay. And last question, how close was the final bidding cost at time of tender?
Okay, so we came in at our budget was going to be between 20, the actual construction cost. It was 27 to 28, and we came in at 24.
Okay.
So
So it was lower.
a
That's
little lower,
wonderful.
but it's lower knowing you're going to have other stuff happen,
Absolutely.
right? That's the thing with a downtown, like rebuilding an old. We're already digging up stuff we didn't know was there. There's utility conflicts are the bane of everybody's existence.
Okay, awesome. That is all the questions for now. Thank you so much, Reg, for the presentation. Very informative. Lots of
Okay.
questions. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move to the next presenter. That's going to be Vivian Yao from the City of Toronto. Vivian, you can share your screen. I mean, Reg first have to unshare his screen. But
Oh, I gotta unshare. Yes, yes, yes. How the hell?
And then now, Vivian, you can share your screen and we can introduce yourself and then we can start a presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vivian Yao, and I'm a senior engineer with Toronto Water at the City of Toronto. When I became a senior engineer, I didn't think much about the word senior. Until recently, I started getting video recommendation like what I wish I had done in my 30s and 10 things I learned 10 years ago. So today, I suppose I'm accepting the algorithm judgment and sharing a few practical lessons from my own experience. This is not a technical training session, and I'm not going to walk through design standard line by line. Instead, I want to talk about something that becomes more important as we grow in our career: how to think beyond the checklist. When we're early in our career, it's natural to focus on whether something meets a standard, whether the calculations are correct, or whether the required submission has been submitted. Those things are important. But over time, I have learned that good municipal engineer often starts there and then go further. The checklist can tell us what to review, but it cannot always tell us what matters most, who may be affected, or what risk may appear later if we don't ask the right question early. The first lesson is that breadth matters. Municipal engineering is rarely just about one pipe, one road, one drawing, or one calculation. Even when the tasks look technical and narrow, it often connects to many other disciplines, groups, and long-term responsibilities. I think Red just set a perfect example for us that a lot of engineers didn't realize that we should engage contract early on. For example, if we are reviewing a water main model, the first question may seem simple. Does the model show enough flow and pressure? But that's the only beginning. We also need to think about whether the assumptions are reasonable, whether the proposed infrastructure can actually be operated and maintained, whether there are impacts to existing assets, or whether other groups, such as operation, transportation services, planning, need to be involved. Early in my career, I might have looked at this time of task and asked, is it correct? That is a fair question. But with more experience, I have learned to ask a broader question. What else is affected? So my advice to early career engineers is this: develop technical depth, but do not stay inside single one technical box. When you review something, look sideways. Ask who else may be affected, like the St. Patrick student during the St. Patrick Festival. Ask whether issue belong only to your discipline or whether it crosses into another area. You do not need to know everything. No one does. But you do need to recognize when the asset is bigger than your own checklist. The ability to see connections is one of the things that separate a reviewer from a strong municipal engineer. The second lesson is that every engineering decision has real impact on communities. This may sound obvious, but it's easy to forget when you are buried in drawings, reports, comments, and deadlines. For example, let's think about a storm management plan. On paper, we may be reviewing storage volume, uplink control, grading, drawdown time, blah, blah, blah. These are technical issues, but behind those technicals are real people and real places. If a pond is located in a park, guess what? Then it's not only a stormwater management facility, it may also be close to a playground, a pathway, a sport field, or a place where families spend time. So the question is not only, is this completed? The better question should be, do we understand the broader impact? Will the area drain safely after the storm? Will it return to normal use within a reasonable time? Can the system be maintained in the long term? These are not abstract questions. They affect public safety, service level, user experience, maintenance burden, and the city's long-term responsibility. Good engineering should account for all that. The third lesson is process over quick solutions. In a busy municipal environment, I guess you are all familiar with, there's also often pressure to provide a quick answer. People may want to know, is it acceptable? Can we move forward? Can we close this comment? Of course, we should be practical. We cannot study every issue forever. But quick question can quickly become risky if the process behind is weak. A strong process doesn't mean slow, it means being disciplined. If we only rely on checklist thinking, we may ask, has the item been submitted? But the strong question is the information sufficient to support decision being requested? This is a very different question. Sometimes a document exists, but it does not actually answer the key issue. Sometimes a calculation is provided, but assumption behind it is not justified. Sometimes a design meets one requirement, but it creates a problem for another group. A disciplined process helps us catch those issues early. As engineers, our credibility does not come from having an instant answer to everything. It comes from having a clear, fair, and logical process to arrive at a defensible answer. To close, I want to come back to one title, Beyond the Checklist. Checklists, standards, and procedures are necessary. There's no doubt. They help us stay consistent, they protect quality, they give structure to our work, but they're not the full value of an engineer. For early career engineers, my advice is simple. Build your technical foundation, but also build your curiosity. Do not be afraid to ask questions, but make your question purposeful. Try to understand not only what the requirements is, but why it exists. And when you review or design something, remember that municipal infrastructure is not just a technical system. It is part of daily life for the public. That is what makes municipal engineering challenging, but also meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivian. That was beautiful. That was great.
Thank you. I need to stop sharing. Just give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. We do not have any questions in the panel at the moment, so that was just great presentation. Thank you, Vivian. Um, if anyone has any questions, they can ask in the chat for Vivian. Uh, no. So we are going to proceed with our final presentation of the day. Michael Capucci from the town of LaSalle. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, Michael.
LaSalle, that's correct.
Oh, wonderful. From the town of LaSalle, he would just introduce himself and then share his screen, and then we can go from there. I still see I gotta thank you, and I did get a question for Vivian. I'm just gonna, if that's okay, if I can ask.
No problem. Vivian, if you could just cancel your screen so I could set that up in the meantime.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm still sharing.
Yes, you
Uh,
are, Vivian.
How do we stop sharing?
So just click on the button share screen and then cancel share screen.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with this. Let me do it again.
I'm gonna try doing something.
Yeah, if you can.
I'm gonna try sharing my screen, and then I'm gonna cancel it. Oh, well, I'm just as lost as there we go. Where's that panel? There's stuff share. Okay. Oh, Vivian's still sharing her screen.
Oh,
There
oh,
there
what
must
kind
be
of?
there must be a tab, a green tab with a red button. Click. Yeah, they're perfect.
Whatever's
Michael.
happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
Michael's sharing his screen.
Oh, yes.
All
Find
right,
it.
perfect.
Yes.
So Vivian, question: how do you prioritize the impact on border community / people impacted when everyone is focused on technical, and there's so much bureaucracy. So how do you prioritize impact on the broader, like, like overall? How do you prioritize that when uh, the question is when everyone's focused on the technical component and with a lot of bureaucracy?
That's a great question. Actually, I have a lot of experience regarding the challenges associated with different interests from different groups. My approach is that try to communicate with different stakeholder early on, and I use a lot of metaphors to explain my technical concept and impact to other groups. And I have quite a few running jokes regarding how I translate my technical work with life examples. So to summarize, those are good questions, and I urge every single young engineer start thinking upside the box when at the beginning of the process. And the earlier you identify questions, the earlier you communicate with different group, the more chance that we can be successful as a whole.
Thank you so much, Vivian. All right, Michael, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Great. Is that working? All good?
Yep, working
Oh,
perfect.
all right. Thank you for having me. What's interesting is the panel did not know each other or plan anything before the presentation today. And what's interesting is a lot of our things are different, but there's a lot of areas that overlap. And so thanks to everyone so far, and hopefully you're all with me still. I'm going to start this the breakdown of my presentation. It's under 10 minutes, so don't worry. I start with the last slide. So if you're not interested after my next slide of what we're going to talk about, go on Instagram or YouTube and keep yourself busy with emails. I won't be offended. And this is my little summary breakdown here. Really, my two biggest things is relationships, experience, and learning. And between the three previous engineers, really there's a huge synergy between all those. So my takeaway is, and this the key important things right here, is to one, build relationships. That's super important. Write down all your lessons and understand why you're writing them down, and then learn new things at every opportunity. When you look at working within a municipality, there is a ton of departments in different, within Public Works, within the organization itself. So you can always find a chance to learn something, and it'll help you a long way. So who am I? I'm an engineer with over 15 years. I work for the town of LaSalle right now, and I have extensive work on water mains, municipal drains, sewers, beautification projects, developments, all sorts of things. I have a photo here of a fire hall build, which was the coolest project I've been on in my last 15 years. It seems simple. It's very cool because you get to work with the firefighters, and there's a lot of neat things inside the build. So if anyone's listening and you have a chance to be part of a project team, I would highly suggest trying to get on a fire hall build. This was another cool project that the town had. I was the project manager for an outside ice rink, so completely different. And I had to learn a lot about refrigeration. So, two totally different things. When you're in the municipal world, you're going to be given all sorts of different projects. So, it's really, really cool where you can go within the municipal world. And I highly suggest, you all keep with it and keep learning as much as you can. Now I'm a little bit older, and if I'm looking back a bit, there's a lot of things I would have done the same, and I'm happy I did certain things a certain way. But a lot of mistakes I think would be made if we didn't go over these next three slides and talk them a bit. Oh, by the way, LaSalle, a lot of people talk about towns they're from. LaSalle is the southern part of Ontario, right next to Windsor, across from Detroit. If you have an opportunity to come there, you have my email now. I'll give you a tour. We're known for our parks and trails and everything else. So really nice community. Happy to be here. I I think everyone in every slide touched on relationships, and really it's super, super important. I say here, your project is not special, but the people are. And it's really true. Everyone will think in the size and scope of different projects. They're all special in a way, but it's the people that get them done. All that we do here is try to complete things. We're trying to complete jobs. We're trying to build things for other departments, roads, maintenance, water, parks for people. So we're always building something for something else. We'll design things, but we actually don't physically do the work. So we need to build our relationships. Mr. Rusford there, he had this great idea of how to complete a downtown project, a huge project. And the first thing to complete that, it was like, how can you better get more information about the project? He built a relationship with the contractors. That's the same thing you can take away. Build a relationship with the contractors, the Heavy Construction Association, with people within your organization that's done the work. When I was a kid, I hated doing that. I hated giving out business cards and talking to people. It's not just about how many it's not about how many business cards you get at the end of the MEA conference. It's about how many relationships you're building, how many people, when you call, are going to pick up the phone, because that's what you'll need to complete a lot of these projects. It's an investment on you as a person. So whenever you get a project, I would always do this, is who can I call? Who has done this, and whose knowledge can I piggyback off of to complete my project? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to learn how it works. Okay. In the municipal workspace, there is a ton of people that you can depend on and rely on and use their expertise, but it's the relationships that complete the projects. This brings to my second point is experience and learning. When you have a good relationship, you can learn from everything that they've done and questions that you've had. The best way to do it and the best way to learn new things with your relationship, one, be present on site. I find a lot of engineers aren't on site as much. You should be on your project, not just for your on-site meetings, but daily to see how things are. Think like a contractor. That'll give you the most experience you can possibly imagine, because the contractors are the actual ones that are doing the work for you. And understand the whys. Ms. Yao brought that up as well, but a lot of people and a lot of engineers, we go through that checklist and we go through the specs and we go through the black and whites. Well, the spec says you have to do this, or the contract says you have to do this. But you're in a point of your career where you need to understand why someone wrote the specifications in a certain way and not just rinse and repeat. I have this working day example. I'm going to use it because she's a great engineer, so she wouldn't mind. But a young engineer I had a cookie cutter job, like road rehab with some water main, nothing crazy, one block. And it was 45 working days. And the first time she did one a project like this, it went very smoothly. The next time she did a project like that, it went better than the first time. She was used to it. She was comfortable with running a small project, water main and road. 3 years later, it didn't go as well. And one of the issues was working days, that she was going over them. The difference between all those examples was the last time she tendered a job, it was in October, November, and December, and she was always building things in July or June, July, and August. She didn't really understand that doing work in different times of the year, there's rain delays, there's less sunlight, there's harder times working with materials. I believe Mel even talked about how the asphalt didn't work on one of their projects. So she knew the technical part, but she didn't quite grasp why there was 45 days or when she should tender things. So when you're at this age, try to learn as much as you can and try to understand the why. If you had so many change orders, why did you have the change orders? If you had so many addendums, why did you have the addendums? And try to reduce those the next time. Write everything you can down because you're going to forget. I forget things that I said 5 minutes ago in this presentation. So when you have an opportunity to learn something in the field, write it down. A thing that I used to do, and I when I was getting ready for this, I forgot that I used to do it, but I should start doing it again, is when I was done a project, I would talk to the contractor and the inspector, and I would ask them how I could do better. What were the mistakes? How did it go? Could it have been better or could have been worse? And you won't realize how valuable this is to not only your contracts themselves, how they're written, to mimic what an inspector would like to see, but also what the contractor thinks on how you handle the job, because they deal with project managers all over your town. It's good for you to get that feedback and to see kind of how you could improve yourself for next time. There's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. If you do something, look it up. Don't fall for it. Be better than that. So you have a little homework to do. And I've always used this line when I'm talking with new engineers and when they're doing design or estimates. And it's the amount of contingency you carry on a job is the amount you don't know. So if you are doing an estimate and you don't quite know what you're talking about, you're likely going to have a higher contingency. So always try to keep your contingency low when you're doing your estimate. And then when you're actually tendering, you'll see that confidence build in yourself. So this is my conclusion. It's the same as the first slide, except I've added 2 books, which are worth reading if you have the time. I'd highly recommend it. It'll improve yourself, it'll improve your knowledge base, and it'll make you a better engineer, I think. One is range, why generalists triumph in a specialized world. It has a lot to do with what we kind of do in the Municipal Engineers Association, where you're dealing with a lot of subspecialties. And as a project manager, you have one goal, and it's trying to get all that information and complete a project on time and on budget. Next is how big things get done. Very interesting look on all different types of projects that you might be able to add into your next project. I think I made it in time. I don't know, maybe a little late, but I appreciate everyone's patience for me there. And thanks for allowing me to speak at the talk today.
Oh, hello.
Hey,
Oh, sorry. I thought my video was stopped for a second. Thank you so much. There's a question on the chat. It says, I recently graduated and I've joined the city a few months ago. The hardest thing for me right now is asking questions. There is so much I don't know, but I never know what exactly to ask. What advice would you have for this?
that's awesome. That's good. Yeah, you're going to learn a lot coming out of school. There is a lot you don't know. Start with your supervisor. Start with the manager. Um, if he's talking about the city of Windsor, call me. That's fine. But I guess the most important thing is that right there is realizing you don't know. When you're on site, there's that saying, fake it till you make it. That doesn't translate well, I find, in the construction world. Understand what you don't know and ask anyone. Ask the contractor who's building it, ask an inspector. People, I find, with young employees want to help you. We've all been there. You're not born with experience, but you can get that with the relationships you build. So find someone that has done it, build a relationship with them, and it, and keep going from there, I suppose.
Awesome. I think that was the only question for today. Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah,
Karen, I'm going to jump in here. And as the incoming executive director of the MEA, I think I can. I'm going to pull privilege here.
sure.
Michael, that was a terrific discussion around relationships. I've been on this tune for 30 years of my career. And that's one of the reasons I'm involved with the MEA. And so, folks that are on the screen, the MEA is a valuable resource. You saw it today at this webinar. There's a lot of this stuff available, training, materials, resources that are available through the MEA. That's how I built a lot of my relationships. Just go to the conference. First time around, you're not going to know anybody. Second time around, now you're going to know a couple of people. Third time around, now you know a few more. Fourth time, you're in. You build those relationships over time. And in your own outside, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like Michael, I stumbled through stuff for the first half of my career, and I still learn every day about how municipal engineering works. So I just want to reinforce that message that municipal engineers, you're in the right place here. That's why the associations exists, is to help each other, support membership, build communities built to last. So how's that for a pitch? All right.
That's
Sorry,
great.
Kennard. I just wanted
Thank you,
to
Reg.
jump in there.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. So again, thank you for all the presenters presenting today. Melanie, Reg, Michael, and Vivian for taking the time and sharing their project experiences with us today. On behalf of MEA, I would also like to thank all MEA members and attendees joining the webinar today and taking the time out of your day. And yeah, as a reminder, this is recorded and this would be online. And thank you everyone for attending. We look forward to seeing you at other future MEA events, such as the conference and other events that we put out. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Excellent.